The Miami Dolphins season is spiraling into dangerous territory. After back-to-back losses, first to Green Bay and then to Houston, the team is barely clinging to playoff hopes. With everything on the line, they're finally making changes to the offensive line, but the question everyone's asking is, why now? Why didn't this happen when it could have made a bigger impact? The frustration among fans is real, and you can't blame them for questioning these decisions. Every week matters, and waiting this long feels like a missed opportunity. Right now, Liam Eichenberg, who started at right guard all season, might be benched. Reports suggest that Isaiah Wynn could step into the role, but it's hard not to feel like this adjustment is coming too late to make the difference Miami desperately needs. Wynn was available as early as last week against Houston, but the Dolphins opted to roll with Jackson Carman at right tackle instead. That decision left fans scratching their heads. Carman has barely played at tackle in the NFL and had little to no experience to suggest he was the right choice. In fact, in his 3 previous seasons, Carman only started 6 games, all at guard, and none since 2021. Throwing him into such a critical situation against Houston felt more like a gamble than a calculated move, and the results weren't pretty. The situation becomes even more baffling when you consider that Eichenberg has experience playing right tackle. If Miami had shifted him to that spot, it would have created an opening for Wynn at right guard, a move that might have stabilized the line in a way Carman simply couldn't. Yet, for reasons that remain unclear, the coaching staff chose not to make that adjustment. Now, with the season hanging in the balance, they're scrambling to find solutions. It's a desperate move, and desperation doesn't always yield the best results. Fans can't help but wonder what could have been if this change had happened earlier. The offensive line struggled mightily against Houston, and Wynn could have provided the spark they needed to turn things around. Instead, the Texans exploited Miami's weaknesses, and the offense never found its rhythm. It's not hard to imagine a different outcome if the Dolphins had been more proactive in addressing the problem. Wynn is undeniably a better option than Eichenberg, whose inconsistency has been a glaring issue all year. Had Wynn started last week, maybe Miami's playoff hopes wouldn't feel so precarious right now. This week's game against San Francisco is shaping up to be the most critical of the season. A loss here would all but eliminate the Dolphins from playoff contention, and that's a bitter pill to swallow for a team that once seemed poised to make a serious run. The pressure is mounting, and the margin for error has completely evaporated. Every snap, every block, and every decision will be under the microscope. It's a high-stakes situation, and the offensive line will be a major focal point. Looking ahead, it's hard to feel optimistic about the state of Miami's offensive line beyond this season. Eichenberg, Wynn, and Carman are all set to become free agents, and none of them have done enough to secure their spot long-term. Of the 3, Carman might have the most potential to return on a short-term deal, but even that feels like a stretch. Wynn's injury history makes him a risky option, while Eichenberg's track record of inconsistency has left fans and analysts alike questioning his future with the team. The front office will need to take a hard look at this unit during the offseason because the current situation is unsustainable. For now, all eyes are on Sunday. The Dolphins need this win, there's no way around it. If the offensive line can step up and give quarterback Tua Tagovailoa the protection he needs, Miami has a fighting chance. But if the line collapses again, it could spell the end of their playoff hopes and, with it, a season that started with so much promise. It's a make-or-break moment, and the stakes couldn't be higher. This entire situation raises bigger questions about the organization's decision-making process. How did it get to this point? Why wasn't the lack of depth and consistency on the offensive line addressed sooner? These are the kinds of questions that will haunt the Dolphins if they fall short of the postseason. There's no denying that the team has talent, but talent alone isn't enough. Execution, preparation, and adaptability are just as important, and Miami has fallen short in those areas when it matters most. As the clock ticks down on the Dolphins season, there's a lingering sense of frustration and missed opportunity. Fans are left wondering what might have been if the coaching staff had acted sooner. If Wynn starts this week and performs well, it will only add to that frustration. Why wasn't he in the lineup earlier? Why did it take so long to make a change that seemed so obvious? These are the questions that will linger long after the final whistle blows. For now, the Dolphins have one last chance to prove they belong in the playoff conversation. It won't be easy. San Francisco is no pushover, but Miami has shown flashes of brilliance throughout the season. If they can tap into that potential and finally get things right on the offensive line, there's still hope. But if they fall short, this season will go down as yet another chapter in the Dolphins' long history of what-ifs and could-be-beans. Fans deserve better, and it's up to the team to deliver when it matters most.